Rich? Why is Powder Blue the standout track?
So if this album generally is about kind of melancholy and the way that you feel about things, there's like, I love albums with narrative. I like songs with narrative. I'm very big on stuff where you tell a story. And this, to me, is the perfect kind of encapsulation of those things. It's a story of two people, obviously in a very desperate part of their existence, seemingly in some relapse, rehab, withdrawal moment in their kind of, in just it's a complete moment in time. Two people in a bar coming down from something, feeling kind of slightly rejected by everything around them, but clinging on to each other. And there's two musical moments in this where there's no vocals at all, which absolutely break my heart every time. And there's like a little middle eight, which sets it up. But I think like the final 30 seconds of this track, where suddenly out of nowhere, this haunting saxophone appears and just pierces through the song, and then it builds to this kind of, I don't know, melancholy crescendo, which ends with a glass smashing, and then the track cuts to silence. I think it is musically perfect in the way that it encapsulates that kind of emotional state.
Yes. Yeah, that saxophone is outrageous. That's kind of a really, it's so like there's it's like almost, there's like friction with it, there's an incredible friction there.
The instrumentation on this album, it just sort of feels like every time a new track starts, I don't know what's going to come next. I mean, because right after Powder Blue is Bitten by the Tailfly, right?
Yes.
Which is just sounds like I was sort of like, wait a minute, did Spotify do that thing where it like picked a new artist to mix in the middle for me? I thought I turned that setting off, but like it just seems to come out of nowhere, and especially after the sort of like melancholy experience where the saxophone comes in, and it just cuts to this like really rhythmic thing with this like really angry guitar riff that bops in. It's just everything about this. Every time a new track started, it felt like a surprise to me. And the end of Powder Blue is a great example of it.
People seem to give this either that is proggy in a good way or proggy in a bad way. And I kind of feel like it's proggy in a good way, because then the further, it sounds like when you listen to the Seldom Seen Kid and those kind of albums after this, they get so operatic,
Yes, absolutely.
And like there's all this at their disposal, and there's this kind of feeling of me of like, what is proggy about this album in your mind?
So, when you interviewed Nate when he did Dark Side of the Moon, he said that some Pink Floyd people would tell you that Wish You Were Here is the song, the album that you should listen to. That I'm one of those people. That is my thing.
Yeah.
And for me, there's a perfect encapsulation of the way in which this album is proggy. So the start of Wish You Were Here starts with a synth chord, which is just held for about a minute and a half before it changes to a different chord, which is held for about a minute and a half. And then the drums come in after that. And if you listen to the start of Any Day Now, it is like the start of Shine On You Crazy Diamond Part 1, but in 30 seconds. It comes in with a single synth chord, which is held for about 13, 14 seconds. It transitions to a second chord, and then the drums start. And it is just, they literally just took the start of one of the most defining prog songs of all time and did it again in highly compressed format.
What does that mean to you, though? Like, what does that? Yeah, what does that musicologically? Like what does that mean to do that?
I think it's incredibly. You could not have a bigger statement of intent than saying, we are going to take this, we're going to evoke it at the very beginning of our first album, and that is going to be the kind of us setting out our stall for what this album is going to be.
Yeah.
And
I like that take. It was a good take.
Prog is a kind of experimental, weird, tries to work in the fringes of what acceptable, what popular music is, but still dips into it enough so that it kind of feels genuine and pop at the same time. And I think this album does an interesting job of navigating that kind of friction as well.
Yeah, I do agree. I do agree.
I mean, I guess I know prog has been thrown around for this album, and like, you know, some people describe it as such. I think like when I hear prog, I always think of like long meandering things. I mean, I think about like some of those earlier Pink Floyd albums. I frankly also think about, on sort of the other end of the spectrum, I think of like the Mars Volta, where it's just sort of like it's chaos, or, you know, and obviously like
even
Rush.
Tool.
Tool. Yeah, I would consider Tool.
A Perfect Circle.
Yeah,
I think A Perfect Circle qualifies there.
I wondered if, and this is a term that we've said on this podcast, and as I can't state enough how we feel about genre on this podcast.
Indeed.
But I do feel like when I hear the term shoegaze, I do think that this, and especially because at the time, like early 2000s, the music coming out of the UK, I mean, like this, I also have been recently, full disclosure, been listening to the most recent Doves album.
There it is.
And I couldn't help but like hear some parallels. I mean, it made me go back to listen to like Lost Souls, which came out, I think, a year before this one came out. I don't know. This just sounds like the UK to me, Rich, and I don't know why. I don't know what that means.
No, I think that's right. Like because I think about shoegaze, and I think about like the bands that I identify with that, like Loveless, My Bloody Valentine's, one of my favorite albums of all time. The Postal Service's Give Up is like, if I wasn't already planning on doing that as my 1000th album for my thing, I would have nominated that for this as well. It's absolutely like one of my all-time favorites. But there's an element to, I guess I will call, US shoegaze, which is slightly more, I don't know, it doesn't operate in the same area. There's much more kind of like synthy, sampley, low energy stuff in the elbow stuff, whereas I feel like there's a greater prominence of kind of guitar and more kind of contrasting soaring vocals against a low bed in like the Postal Service stuff.
It's a little brighter. There's a little bit of a brighter light to it. Maybe.
Yeah, or like I think Connor Oberst for some reason as like an American
That's related.
Shoegaze.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's related. Definitely. What do you think of the band? Like, what do you think when you think of Elbow? Do you just think of Guy Garvey, or like when you think of Elbow, are you really committed to like looking at them as their collective? What's your perspective on that?
I don't like. This is a weird one for me because, like, I think there isn't an Elbow album that is like this, which is in their canon apart from this one.
Okay.
They moved in very much in the direction that you described. They kind of became, you know, operatic Coldplay, kind of stadium anthem band, and that's fine. And you know, their fourth album won them a Mercury Music Prize, and I think The Seldom Seen Kid is a pretty good album, but it doesn't live with me in the same way that this album does. And I think it feels almost like a completely different band made this album, and then everything that came after it never quite went to the same place.
Well, didn't they? I read that they wrote the song for the 2012 London Olympics, which I was not able. I had a hard time finding it, but I was just sort of like, this doesn't seem like, if I'm basing it solely off of Asleep in the Back, I'd be like, that's a strange choice to generate a song for the Olympics.
And the grounds for divorce, for divorce was the one that won the Mercury Prize. Or was it the whole album did?
That's the Seldom Seen Kid is that album, Grounds for Divorce was
sure if it was the
single
itself.
off it.
Well, it's just so interesting. There's just more dynamics to this album. You know, like they're using all the same tools, but they don't seem nearly as dynamically implemented on those later records as they do on this one.
Well, Rich, we asked you to provide us with a list of perfect albums. And in classic Matt Risby fashion, you supplied us with a list of 8, maybe
it was really more like 10.
More like 10. I think it was more like 10
At least 10, maybe 11, I think.
4 categories, 2 albums in each, and then 2 other albums that you were like, well, but also these. So you obviously thought about this.
Mhm.
But what we want to know is what were the standards for perfection you were using? Like what helped you generate that list?
Okay.
And
so
how does this album meet those standards?
Yes.
I think it's very different. Yeah. You guys have had this conversation many, many, many times.
Over 100.
Indeed. I think a perfect album just has to be something where if someone said to you with a gun to your head, you could only ever listen to 10 albums for the rest of your life, what makes that list? Like there is an REM album that I would put in that top 10, which I don't think is a perfect album from a musical standpoint. And it's got a song on it that I really barely tolerate, but it's so important to me that I would never not put it on that list of albums that I have to listen to for the rest of my life. And this Elbow album meets that criteria as well. Like this, it has such a fundamental position in my life, both in the time that I discovered it, the times that I've listened to it, the way it makes me feel when I listen to it, what part of my brain reacts to the music, that I can't imagine never listening to this album.
I can't imagine never listening to this album again. That's good too. That's a good criteria for anybody, really.
That makes me think of like what are albums that I may have listened to a ton in like the late 90s, early 2000s that I was like, I'm going to listen to this forever. And now I'm like, I have not touched it since.
Sure,
like,
yeah.
I mean, with time, it helps to be able to see what are the things that like have risen to the top.
Well, and this is also, I think, an argument for like why the professionalism of bands, like why it matters, because you just seeing Guy Garvey on, or you knowing that Guy Garvey has a radio show, or kind of like seeing Guy Garvey pop up wherever he probably pops up here and there, like it keeps him in your mind, and it keeps him, it keeps that album that you appreciated so much from his band in your mind. And that's why, even if we never get another Radiohead album, like they're still kind of just prominent. And they're still around too, like for good or for ill, in some cases. But like that's the really interesting thing is what gets them to hook into our consciousness for long enough that they can matter to us this much.
Yeah. And I would say, Michael, that if you're worried about albums that you remember from the past, which you haven't gone back and visited to, I'd strongly recommend trying to listen to 1,000 albums in a year. It will really focus your mind on the stuff that you remember from the 90s. And you're like, God, I have not listened to that for a decade.
The only thing like that I think I've done in the past was I did make a very long playlist that was all of the Radiohead recordings in chronological order, and I was doing a long drive, and so I think it's over 10 hours of music when you throw in like the EPs and B-sides and whatnot, and I listened to it chronologically, and I mean, there is something, you do learn something about a band. I mean, I remember, I think everyone sort of, poo-poos on King of Limbs quite a bit, but when you listen to it in sequence, you're like, oh, this makes total sense why this fit here. And also that song that I didn't really like so much before now suddenly has new life.
Sure. And I think that album in particular really just kind of suffers from underexposure a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Especially the back half. I think the back half of King of Limbs is as good as anything on Moonshaped Pool, personally.
Yeah. I agree.
Everyone just thinks of him dancing in that weird,
and it was a fun video.
It was a fun video.
It's like, okay, this is a, not all of our videos can be Jonathan Glazer productions. Like that's the moral of the story.
Very different from Street Spirit. Yes,
very different. Very different. I also just read your Counting Crows post.
Cool.
And it sounds like you have a similar feeling about Mr. Jones in the context of that album too. It's the price you have to pay to listen to it.
It really is. It really is.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense, and I love that. I love that album too, and I think you're being overplayed does happen. It's a war of attrition, right?
It really is.
Yeah, because
and I think you can do it to yourself as well. There are really albums where there's a song on there that I kind of listen to it and I go, oh yeah, this is on this album.
Yeah.
But the reason for that is that when I was 19 and discovered it, I just put it on repeat for 30 times and drove everyone in my household crazy. I remember my dad bursting into my room because I played Birdhouse in Your Soul by They Might Be Giants, I think, over and over and over for about an hour.
God.
And he was like, "What on earth are you doing?" And I was like, "I don't know, I just really like this song." But now when I listen to that album, that's the track that I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of overfed myself on this now. And now it's okay, but I'll be happier when I'm moving on to stuff that I'm more invested in.
I get that.
That's Flood. That's an album that I feel like we're gonna talk about at some point.
Yeah,
I don't know when, but I mean, I guess there's someone. And Christian Padone was on the show. I was surprised that he didn't put that, or maybe he did, but there was a reason we didn't pick it. I can't remember what it was.
That's fair.
Also, a big Counting Crows fan, and I think a bigger fan of Recovering the Satellites than August and Everything After,
which you acknowledge.
I can see his case now. Actually,
it's good. Yeah.
Anyway, we're all over the place, and that's amazing. We love it when that happens, Rich, because it means that we have someone with us who's as excited about music as we are. But this is a very serious venture we have set out for, or set out to, whatever. In any case,
we've set it for ourselves.
Yeah, and I do believe, Tyler, that it is now time for the deliberation phase.
It's really
close, very close.
We just gotta commit. We gotta bam, do it. Yeah.
And even sound effect. Just so you know, there's a sound effect there.
There's a sound effect. Yeah.
Anyway, you want to go first or me?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Listening to this album in preparation for this episode, I did sort of feel like I was back at the. Oh, is it St. James Park, or there's a tube side? Is that on the yellow or the green one, whatever those are? St. James,
somewhere down there.
Yeah,
like Matt, my knowledge of London is limited, and I try and spend as little time there as possible.
Fair.
There, when I studied there was a record store in a tube stop. I think it was St. James Park. Which is where where I discovered Muse, which is where I discovered, because I would just walk in there and whoever was working there would just play whatever they felt like playing. And I would say like 3 times going in there, I'm like, "What are you playing right now?" And they would tell me, and I'm like, "I'm going to buy that CD. Thank you." Like Stereophonics, I think I got from them.
Good one, yeah.
But it just, listening to this album reminded me of being back there. Like it just I felt like I was in the UK again. I felt like I was in the UK in the 2000s, frankly.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I can point to a specific thing from your case, because I feel like everything you've said here has been sort of like woven together so tightly. There's there's the personal connection. There's the fact that we've been able to connect this to Nine Inch Nails, which I always appreciate.
Yeah.
Also, a little jealous. Wait, so you did get to see them fully?
I have seen them, yes. I've seen them twice, because I saw them this year on their tour as well.
Okay, now I hate you, but that's okay.
I'm sorry,
because I saw them briefly at Lollapalooza, and then we had to leave. I think I saw them do like 5 tracks. Anyway.
They're going to keep touring. They're going to keep touring, though. They're working so much.
I know, but he's 60. He's 60 now. Like,
he does not act like he's 60.
No, he does not.
He looks great.
Yeah, he's like,
great.
Man, I hope I have those genes. But in any case, I just think that the transportative nature of this album, combined with the case that you've made for it, and my ability to connect to my own personal things that I experience, it just feels like this just feels like right in the pocket for like one of our for all the reasons why we declare albums perfect. But I mean, I don't want to jump the gun here, Tyler. What do you want to say about this?
No, I agree. There was something I found myself thinking how we talk about this slice of British music so much, you and me, Michael, and our contemporaries, this is just a pivotal time. 2001 was a pivotal time for music there. And I saw somebody call it post Britpop, and it kind of talking about the post Britpop malaise before there was a kind of another generation of, British rock stars that I think kind of started to do something a little bit different than the Radioheads and the Blurs and the Oases, another Mancunian. But, this is such a necessary entry into that era, I think, because it combines a little bit of the musical bravery that I get from Radiohead characteristically, and it combines some of that sincerity that you get from Coldplay, Coldplay at their best. And then it gets a kind of vocal quality that I felt was like, there's a real roughness to his voice that is like, he can sing like he's an opera singer, but he isn't trained, like that. Or he maybe is trained in ways that I'm not totally locking in on, but you know what I mean? It's not as polished as so many of the rock voices that I hear nowadays, and which is another thing that draws me to Tom York's voice, right? But musically, you express these ideas so clearly, and you do that in your writing on your blog, and you've done that here today, where you kind of like, you can weave in these very clear images about the way things sound. I don't get tired of that in this venture, right? I don't get tired of hearing people try to do that. And you do that really well. So that burnishes the record. And then it just goes pretty hard. This one is like, it has real guts to it. And I love an album with guts that you can feel. It's kind of an ineffable thing about it. So we didn't even talk about
the title track too, which wasn't even on the original pressing, but like just sounds like what it is. It sounds like a song that would play while you're in the back of a car on a long road trip when you're a child or something. Anyway, sorry.
And then one last thing that I'll say before we go to our decision is that you really might question. There were two songs that came out in the year 2001 called Newborn. One is 2 words, one is 1 word.
Indeed.
And I would say these are equally powerful tracks, and I really do like Muse's Newborn as well. Yes. So, and Origin of Symmetry in general, I think is probably my Muse album.
That is the best Muse album.
Yeah. Far and away. I can't wait to talk about that one.
Beg to disagree, but that's okay.
You're a showbiz guy? Is that what you are?
Well, I would lean either towards Showbiz or Absolution. But Showbiz was how I did. Showbiz was the album that I listened to, that I heard in that record store. Okay,
we might need to have a point counterpoint on this. Then
we might off.
Michael, you ignorant slut. Okay. So, are you putting it to me, or am I putting it to you?
I'll put it to you, Tyler. You've heard Rich's case. We've both become familiar with his blog. He gave us a very extensive list, and I think we settled on the right choice, both for the season and both for him. What do you say? Does Elbows Asleep in the Back go to 11? Is it a perfect album? Can it join the Pantheon?
All the way to 11.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. We'll send you your trophy. We haven't made the trophies yet, but they will.
You'll be the carrier of the trophy.
If we ever have a recording studio for some reason, this ever like really takes off. We will create a room where we have all the album covers and then like pictures of whoever nominated them up there, so we can have like our official Hall of Fame. But
yeah. Well, thanks so much, Rich, for this. This was such a treat. You are firmly in our Friends of the Prod crew.
I've had a hugely fun time. Thank you very much for listening to me waffle about this album.
No waffling unless they're Belgian and covered in syrup. So,
and if that was, then this was exactly that kind of waffle.
Yeah, that kind of waffle. Yes,
it was a good kind of waffle.
Rich, is there anything you want to shout out? I mean, we've mentioned your blog a lot, but
I would just encourage people, if you enjoyed me talking endlessly about this album, you can find me talking endlessly about 700 of some other albums. One of the commitments on my blog is that every one of the 1,000 albums that I listen to this year, I will write something about. The Elbow album has a kind of article all to itself. Not every album gets that kind of treatment. But so that can be, you can find that at recordreconstructor.com. Please come read the blogs, email me, tell me what you think. I'm always excited to hear from new people. Apart from that, I just want to thank you both. You are keeping the dream alive of interesting musical podcasts. I spent a long time looking for music podcasts that felt like they were by music fans and were not just about kind of recycling critical thinking on music, and you guys do the best version of that I have found.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. That means a lot. Thank you so much. Everybody, we can't recommend you go follow Rich enough. It's a really gratifying read to just go through his back catalog of posts, and you will find something that is of interest to you. I guarantee it. And if you're not following us on social media, please do. We're always trying to put ourselves out of our comfort zone and do some shit up there sometimes, just a little something. And by the time you're listening to this, hopefully we'll have got some interesting stuff up there for you. So if you have questions, email us, hit us up.
Yeah, and we'll keep you posted. I mean, you should go to Rich's blog to find out if he makes it to 1,000, but we'll be sure to. I think so.
I'm not even worried. Is it a question? I'm not even worried.
No, it's not. But still,
you'll do what you need to.
You got to dangle the carrot, Tyler. You got to dangle the carrot.
That's true, and I'm really excited for if it does come down to the wire, what those last few days of the year will be like for you. Is just constantly listening to music. Yeah.
Well, because certain holidays you can be able to listen to 3 on a holiday. Yeah, that's
but you have to program it right. You have to have Muppet Christmas. You have to have John Denver and the Muppets.
I have a whole tranche of Christmas albums all lined up for that last week.
Okay.
That's perfect.
Yep.
See. All right.
The only thing left to say is bye.